listening to Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
Hello, Forgers! This is episode 29 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. This is Jeff Reynolds, your show host, and I am joined by the incredible co-host of the show, who is more awesome than Nutella on pizza. It's Kristen Ashton. That's pretty awesome, Kristen.
That's pretty awesome. But what if, Jeff, you were that last bit of Nutella that you get to have on your spoon? I think that's more awesome. The bottom of the jar, because it's that last sweet bite.
Or it's incredibly depressing because you have no more Nutella.
Or you went through an entire Nutella jar in 1 hour. Not that I've done that.
Yeah, I cannot say that I have done that, but maybe I have. But I don't know. I mean, that sounds like my Heroes games too. I mean, just when you're at the last second, you think it's so good and it's just over and it just wasn't exactly what you had hoped it would be, and you kind of feel like crap after it.
Just a little bit, but that's because those endorphins wear off and your body goes, oh, it felt so good while it was happening, and then it's over and you just close your eyes in shame and walk away.
Oh, man. And I've had some of those games. I mean, definitely. I've been playing a ton of Gul'dan. I really, really like Gul'dan. Have you had a chance to play any?
I have. I've tried him out in practice just because I have to save my gold for some other heroes, so I couldn't get him out right. But he is so awesome because he's so much faster than I thought he would be. Like, he's whipping stuff out left and right. And then the fact that you get to suck life and then tap your own life to get mana back. It's incredible being able to stay on the field for that long without needing to go back to refill at a fountain.
Yeah, and the amount of practice it has taken me to get that even closer to being, to get me even closer to being okay with that ability. I mean, you really have to choose when you want to hurt yourself. You really have to choose when you're going back, when you might be able to drain life from something, you know. Maybe sometimes I find when I'm on Tomb of the Spider Queen and they call down the spiders and I don't have a ton of health and they're coming at my forts and keeps, that I decide to just stay because I can drain health from those spiders, and that really helps. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, the balance there is crazy, and I really, really think that with the life tap aspect of Gul'dan, they have really hit the mark with, you know, that feeling of choice, and you have to choose when or when not to do that, and it's a significant factor in your gameplay.
It is, and what about that fear that we finally got? And it's not just a random fear either, it's one based on where you place it that determines the direction heroes run off in, which I thought was a perfect way to implement it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really hard to control too in the game. Like, you've really got to make good decisions, and it takes a ton of practice. And I've played a bunch with my friends, and so, you know, I'm getting that bonus XP I'm playing. I'm really liking it, and I love his master skin with the hood. If you haven't seen his master skin, check it out in the game, because his hood, they pull it back and you see it, it's just really, really cool. It's a cool idea.
It is, but let's not forget his spider skin with the legs that twitch on his back. That was amazing.
Yeah, really, really neat skins coming in, and yeah, I love that stuff. I love that aesthetic stuff in the game. It makes it so much more of, you know, an all-encompassing experience when you get to choose those sorts of things in your mounts. I think that's really what drives this game, and obviously it drives it monetarily because people are buying, you know, skins and mounts for the game, and that keeps the game alive. So I mean, it's just awesome. And I've had some crazy Hero League games. I played a game in Hero League. This is Silver 5 Hero League, where we're in there and we are down by 13 shots on the temple, or Towers of Doom, rather. And we're down 13 shots, and they need 3, right? So it's definitely, you know, the chat is full of GG. It's all over. 3 shrines pop at this point. So it's over, right? So we're going through, and I'm playing with my friend who's, you know, really seasoned MOBA player. He runs in there. He's playing Vala. we engaged into a team fight at one of the shrines. We wiped the entire team out. We happened to have one fort left on their side that we had to take because they had really, really gone on autopilot. We took that fort. It launched one shot, and we got all 3 shrines, and we won the game. And I don't think, other than BlizzCon, I don't think I've ever screamed louder at a video game.
That is epic. That is something stories and sagas are written of. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was.
And people say they don't like Towers of Doom, but those comebacks are incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, I really like Towers of Doom. I mean, even when I lose, it can feel a little bit, daunting when you're really down and it doesn't feel like you can get back because, even if you're really down, a lot of games I've been playing lately where my team has been down for, up until 10, and I keep spamming in chat like, just wait until 10. We're going to be strong at 10. And, we're down 2 levels even, and we can come back and win the game. Towers doesn't feel like that sometimes, but yeah, I like Towers of Doom a lot.
I do too. And I think what I like most about it is the theme, the Halloween feel that they have going for it. And the fact that you can't charge the core, which is a very, very cool implementation of how you can change up the map. So different things matter more. Like what I realized with the mercs on that map, they kind of feel wasted if you don't push with them so that they can be delivered to the enemy base.
Right.
So, I mean, because, enemy goes down and stops them, you've lost more than half of their capability to do some serious damage to those outer structures or even hit the core itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And from our forging here that I love things in the game that affect how the game is played in a way where people have to make decisions. And you see that pushing at the bottom right there, and you're just really, you're split. I need to go to pick this up. If I don't go and pick up the merc camp down at the bottom, it may turn into shots on the core, but the actual shrine popped, so I need to run up there. I love that kind of stuff because that gives you those crazy game moments that are just, worth talking about.
The ones that make you want to keep playing the game.
Right.
The ones that make you forget about your 10 lost streak that just doesn't seem to want to end.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's a ton of fun. And Kristen, I was looking at the Twitch chat before the game started here, and I saw you're chanting back and forth about Pokemon Go. Have you picked it up?
I have picked it up, and like I was telling you earlier, originally I was not going to, but I heard about the walking and the fitness stuff involved, so I was going to try it out. Why not? It's a free app, and you catch Pokemon, which totally fits into my nature of wanting to collect everything.
Right.
Just fill out the roster. So I've gone on, I don't know how many walks the past few days, but Washington's gorgeous this time of year. And my favorite part, though, is that the phone vibrates when a Pokemon is near, so you don't have to stare at your phone the entire time. You just hold it in your hand and start walking. So there's a state park right across the street that I was going through, and there I ran into two squirrel fights. One, like my favorite one, the littlest one had a pile of branches and leaves in his mouth, and this other little guy was tripping at him, and they eventually ran at each other and started smacking one another around. And I would have missed that had I not been trying to catch Pokemon.
No, these are real squirrels we're talking about here. We're not talking about Pokemon squirrels.
Legitimate real squirrels going about their little squirrel day, probably building nests. I'm not sure, but yeah. It was a battle far more intense than any Pokemon battle I've ever encountered.
That's great. That's cool. And it fits perfectly into your blog, Battle to Be Better. So I think that's a great way to market Pokemon, because one of the things I found, I picked it up on the first day and have been crazy busy with everything going on that I haven't been able to really play it. But I found that when I did get into the battling and stuff, it wasn't everything that I wanted it to be. I wish that it was a full-on Pokemon battle like we played in those old Pokemon games. But the collecting aspect, I really think you nailed it there. I mean, it's really cool to be able to collect and share, and now even Yelp has picked up Pokemon Go, and if you go on Yelp, it'll show you which one of the factions is holding that Yelp spot in Pokemon Go. I mean, that is a huge huge thing to be a part of Yelp. That's worldwide crazy supporters for Yelp. So I thought that was cool too.
And it cracked me up how quickly that was implemented, because this thing came out on the 6th. That's 11 days ago, and already Yelp was implementing restaurants nearby. So I'm wondering if maybe, just maybe, they had some insider information. It's going to be big.
Maybe, because they got graphics and everything. I mean, that stuff is just a huge, and I'm sure all the restaurants and stuff are really, I bet they have mixed feelings about it, because you got these people coming into these places trying to battle. They may or may not be purchasing anything. I know that Garrett Weinzierl from Into the Nexus posted a picture that he saw where some convenience store had posted that Pokemon were for paying customers only. So I think that's really funny that they have to do that, and I think it's going to be a cool thing. I wonder how long it will last, though, I'm
guessing it'll have 2 weeks where people are still really into it, newer people are getting into it, because the easy to catch Pokemon are all around. It's the harder ones. And then, of course, the eggs that you have to walk to hatch and everything, and catching the Pokemon will go a bit slower. So I think the newness wears off in about 2 weeks, and after that, the people who really, really like it will continue on with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the same thing for a lot of these games out there. And Heroes is one of those games, definitely, where, at the beginning, the newness kind of got a lot of people into it. And now I feel like with the new ranked system and the new heroes that are coming in, especially Gul'dan, which a lot of people from the Warcraft universe can relate to. I mean, I think it's pulling people back into Heroes of the Storm. And it's been really awesome. And speaking of Heroes of the Storm, which is why we're here to talk about Heroes of the Storm. This is HeroesForge. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so happy that you're here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of this community-driven podcast. The way the show works is we're going to pick a hero from one of the Blizzard universes and imagine what that character would look like if it was in Heroes of the Storm. Although this week is a little different. Once a month, we do something we call the Featured Forger Spotlight, where we take a build that was actually sent to us from a community member or listener of the show, and Kristen picks one of the abilities from that awesome build, and I pick one of the abilities, and then we build 2 more kits based off of those abilities. This is a massive show this month. I am so excited to announce it. So, you know what? Without further ado, let's forge.
Let's forge.
The Feature Forger Spotlight for this month. Kristen, tell us, who are we forging?
This month, it was decided by listener Nutrinoff that we would forge the Leper Gnome.
The Leper Gnome. I gotta be honest, when I saw the title of this message that came in from Nutrinoff, I thought, Leper Gnome, out of everybody in the Hearthstone universe, the Leper Gnome? And then I read his kit, and I was, oh man, this was another one of those, like light bulb moments where I was like, this has got to be in the game. This has got to be in the game. It was just really great. And that kit is crazy. And it was so hard for Kristen and I to pick one ability from that kit each to be able to forge. I think we went back and forth multiple times about, well, this one's really cool, I want to do this. Oh no, wait, I really think I want to build around this. I mean, this was one of the most in-depth, really awesome builds. So thank you to our awesome patron Nutrinoff for sending this in. It's a killer build, and we're going to post it on our website, which is HeroesForge.club, along with all of the builds we do for all of the heroes on the show. You can check that out, HeroesForge.club, and you can check out all of Nutrinoff's abilities too after the episode. Kristen, I mean, weren't you blown away?
I was, and like you said, it was probably a good 20 to 30 minutes we were hacking back and forth as to who would get what from this little guy. And again, this Leper Gnome once again underlines my take on these heroes, because it's the heroes I don't think will be easy to forge that end up being the most beautifully crafted pieces of art I've ever done. And the Leper Gnome is no different. He's like this beautiful, beautiful creation that I would do much to see in the Nexus.
I bet he's never been called beautiful. the leper gnome. I'm not sure if he's ever been called beautiful. So you know what? There's a first day for everything. And today, leper gnome, you are beautiful. Kristen, give us a little rundown of where leper gnome lives in the Hearthstone universe.
Will do. To stave off a Trog invasion, it was High Tinker Gelbin Mechatork that ordered the opening of the pressure valves of the gnomish machines. Flooding the area with toxic radiation, more gnomes died than Trogs. But even with the majority dying to the radiation, a select few lived to become mutated, insane versions of what they once were. Dubbed leper gnomes, these twisted caricatures of the great gnomish race continue to this day to do battle against the Trogs that continue to try and overtake their home. Hateful of Mechatork for causing their predicament, and even more hateful of the gnomes that live healthy and free. All that venture too close are treated with equal disdain.
I mean, what a song of oppression. What a story of, I mean, there's a lot going on here for this poor guy, for the poor leper gnomes.
It's an entire society that was wronged, you know, and sometimes you have to take extreme measures and hope they'll work out in the end. And I think releasing the radiation ended up not working out in the end.
Right. In hindsight, probably not the best idea.
They should have probably just caused a cave-in and left the Trogs to their little dirty homes down in the ground and just moved on out.
Moved on out, definitely. Well, now they're moving out, and the leper gnome is making his way over to Heroes of the Storm in our builds here, at least. So let's start with what we always start with. Let's start with what role classification would this leper gnome have if it was brought into Heroes? And I said that it would be, and I'm kind of doing a little bit of a cop out here, I'm saying a specialist / assassin, a little bit of both. Not as, you know, in depth as your build last week where you kind of switched between support and assassin. This is just, I wasn't really sure where it would live, so I said it'd be in the middle, kind of like those, you know, in the middle classes.
Exactly, that's kind of what Medivh is. They call him a specialist, but really he's sort of a jack of all trades.
Right. Yeah, what were you thinking that his role specification would be?
I'm going with full assassin for this one.
Oh, full assassin. This is going to be fun. And, you know, another really cool thing, we were sent in another challenge by one of our Twitter followers, Annalise, who said, you know, first challenge, give this leper gnome a name, not just be the leper gnome in the game. So I was like, oh, gosh, that's cool. Okay, let's do that. So I don't know if you did, Kristen, but I named my leper gnome, and I named him Boyle. Like,
oh, that's a good one.
So, I mean, I sat here you've never seen so many people do research on famous lepers. Like, I was going through Wikipedia and reading about all of these famous lepers and everybody that, you know, had leprosy at one point and trying to make this all, you know, make sense or even witty, funny names. And I was just like, you know what? What's really, really weird about, you know, just Boyles are gross. And I want him to be just like this kind of gross dude that roams around the Nexus. Did you name yours?
I did. I would call mine Patches.
Patches?
Because the whole story is that lepers lose pieces of themselves. Now, I read up on leprosy, and that's not necessarily true. However, the idea is just, it seems to be ingrained in culture, so I think Patches would be pretty good. Maybe he'll lose a finger along the way, maybe an ear, as he's running around.
I mean, didn't you feel kind of weird researching leprosy, or was I the only one? I'm like, Wikipedia, there's a page on leprosy? Like,
it is, but it's such an important disease throughout history. Well, old antiquity, I should say, right? Because once we figured out how to kind of deal with it, it hasn't really been an issue.
Right.
But back in the day when they believed it was transferred through even getting close to someone who was suffering through leprosy.
Right.
There's some weird myths and stuff that evolved around it. So certainly weird reading, but fascinating all the same.
Yeah, and even to your point more, it has affected, you know, this whole pop culture idea of leprosy. I mean, we see it, you know, what's the word I'm trying to say? We see like visions or thoughts of it even in Game of Thrones now, right? Like with the stone people and, you know, Jorah gets touched by the stone person, and that's sort of like a leprosy kind of thought, right?
You're absolutely right. I never made that connection, but Yes.
Yeah, so it's a scary thing that people were really scared of, and, it lives on to today that people think about it. So let's get into it. Let's get into this leper dude that's going into the Nexus. Let's talk about traits. Kristen, I want to hear your full assassin trait for the leper gnome.
This one is called I Feel Icky. Infected with radiation of the ages, leper gnome's body, or should I say, patches or boil, maybe boily patches. His body is his own weapon, allowing him to stack on radiation damage over time passively. The longer an enemy is near the leper gnome, the more stacks of damage that accrue.
Okay, so it's like a burning rage, but it does more damage the longer you're inside of it.
Exactly.
Ooh, and it's a passive trait, so you come locked and loaded with burning rage multiplied by however often you're standing near.
Exactly. You don't have to wait until the teens to talon into it. You immediately are filled with burning radiation.
Yeah. Burning Rage, that's a really cool idea because I usually only take Burning Rage if I'm dominating. Like when I play Leoric and, I get to that talent choice of whether to take Burning Rage or the Spell Shield or, something like that, I usually take the Shield only because, we're probably not winning by that much, but it feels good to have Burning Rage on because you're just doing passive, massive amounts of damage to people because they're just standing next to you, especially against a team that's all melee heroes that you're fighting against. It's really cool. So tell me about this. So the closer you get to the hero, it's not necessarily the closer, but the longest or the longer you are near that hero. Is that what you're thinking?
Exactly. So it wouldn't do more damage the closer you get. It would be in a set area around the leper gnome, and it would stack the longer you're sitting within this area.
So then you leave the area, and what happens? Like, you slowly lose stacks, or does it just all go away?
Exactly. You would slowly lose stacks.
Ooh, that's powerful, too, because playing Gul'dan again, I see those heroes wandering off, trying to hit that healing fountain, and you just type in, wait for it, ding! You get them. So that would be another really cool thing. Were you thinking that the leper gnome would have a normal health pool, or were you thinking it would have a reduced health pool?
I'm thinking he would have a normal health pool because when I was reading about the whole leper gnome thing, it seems that they kind of have a society at the moment. Mm-hmm. So the worst has happened, and they've pretty much settled.
Right. Love it. Cool. Sorry for all the questions. I just really think that's really cool. Okay, let's talk about my trait. I call this one Get Well Soon. When the leper gnome player, or when the boil player, is taken out by the enemy team, the player that deals the last hit to him takes a significant amount of damage as damage over time. So this is directly related to Hearthstone. When the leper gnome card gets destroyed in the game, or the minion, I should say, it does direct damage to the opposing hero. So I thought, we got to bring this into the Nexus somehow. So we have the ability to track who did the last hit because we see it every time we die. You see who did the last amount of damage to you, and whether it's a minion or whether it's an enemy hero in this trait, Get Well Soon, that hero would take a good amount of damage. So I'm thinking this would kind of change you kind of got to start thinking about last hits when you're playing against Boil.
You would, and you want to make sure you don't have a tiny sliver of health left. Now, with this last hit, how is the damage dealt? Does he explode in the face of whoever deals it? Would he leak out a sudden pop of nasty gas?
Yeah. I want him to be as nasty as possible, I'm picturing. So, yes, when he dies, it's not a quick death. It'll be like and he'll fall over, and then you'll see maybe even sort of that same animation from Hearthstone just kind of come out and hit the last person that hit him as an ooze or some sort of quick moving thing that you obviously couldn't dodge.
No, you could probably, again, try and hide your head in shame at what you've done, right. But the evidence is still there on the kitchen table.
Absolutely. So that was my idea for a trait. What were you thinking for his mounting ability?
I'm going to go with the Mechanostrider. Or a Mechanostrider. I'm not sure how those are pronounced, but I love those little gnome mounts in WoW.
Oh, those are cool. Those are the ones, you'll have to remind me, the ones that are on two legs?
Yeah, they look like
Oh.
little emus.
Yeah.
But they've got little smoke tailpipes, tail
Right.
feathers.
Yeah, I've seen that, like the piloted shredder card in Hearthstone. Yeah, I've seen that around the World of Warcraft. That's really cool. I figure it would be a pretty big mount, right?
Oh, it would be, but it's so cute because his legs wouldn't even be able to reach the little stirrups on the side if
Right.
it has stirrups. But, to make him look as small and as unimposing as possible. Because personally, as a lover of small heroes in the Nexus, for some reason, I'm not sure why, I feel that making them seem cute is important to making the enemy team disregard how killer they actually are.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can have stirrups if you want stirrups, Kristen. This is your world. You created.
That's true. Well, he's gonna have stirrups and his feet won't reach.
I was like, yeah, he has stirrups if you want them. On my end, I'm thinking that he would have some sort of like a medieval death cart. Like how they used to carry dead bodies like around, and they would just pick bodies up off the street that maybe they were, affected by the plague or whatever, which I know is different than leprosy, but sickness. I mean, it popped in my head. And this would be carried by just minions. So little minions would come out and they'd have this cart, and then the leper gnome would kind of just lay on it as he moved forward.
Oh, would they have little bells and ask for dead to be brought out?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, would there be little bodies tossed from the bushes into the cart as it goes by? Maybe dropped from trees.
Maybe the actual tunes that are taken out in the game also get picked up by the cart as you drive by, like the dead, ragdoll Jaina that's on the ground, and the minions pick her up and put her on the cart. We might be going too far, but I love it. That's
We can't go
HeroesForge.
too far. This is imagination land. We go as far as is necessary.
I don't think we can go too far. Okay, cool. Let's get into basic abilities, the meat and potatoes of the heroes build here. Let's talk about Q, and the first basic on my side is called, Do You Feel Sick? Now, this is directly inspired by a story that my mom always tells about me, and quickly I'll tell it. When I was little, I was at a theme park, and my mom turned to me, and she looked at me and said, Jeff, do you feel sick? And I turned to her and I said, okay, and I threw up. Like she had given me permission. Like, are you going to get sick? Okay, and I got sick. So this is directly related to my past here. So you guessed it. This is a skill shot. The gnome player...
No, okay, go. Did you skill shot your poor mother? Was she covered in your sick?
In my mother's Irish storytelling, I'm sure that I did just get sick all over her and stuff. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I was little, but I mean, that's... That's the deal there. So it is a skill shot for Boyle, the leper gnome in the game, and the gnome player will quote unquote get sick in a targeted direction. All enemies hit by this sickness take a significant amount of damage. So this is a little bit of an assassin skill shot here. I'm picturing that, it's projectile. I wanted to say vomit. But I was like, maybe vomit is too intense. So I didn't. I just said get sick and, sickness. So, but that's my thought. And I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Would it slow them down because they're so disgusted if it hits them?
I wasn't thinking so, but maybe. Like, maybe you can get a little bit of CC on that. And I definitely want some sort of animation that shows the sickness, like, dripping off of them or, something really gross.
Yeah. Now, would this have like little chunks of things in it? And I ask this not to make it more gross, but because
Okay.
murky, right? When he poots, there's like starfish and stuff.
Right. Sure.
So, are there like food things in there?
Maybe we can take it too far. We'll let the animators decide when this hero gets picked up by Blizzard. For
Fair
sure. What were you thinking for his Q ability? I hope it's less disgusting than mine.
Well, we're going with something called spread the love. So if we just leave it at that, maybe we'll let the listeners' imaginations go.
That's it?
Okay, spread the love. There we go.
You were serious.
Have fun with that. Now to business. Leper Gnome has infected the tip of his sword with a concentrated dose of the radiation, causing any enemy stabbed by it to suffer a small damage over time debuff, so another stack.
Right.
If stabbed again before the dot fades, again another stack is applied.
Oh, so they're getting stacked by the basic attacks, or by the trait rather, because they're not getting stabbed, they're getting stacked by this DOT because they're standing next to the gnome. But he's also using this ability to stack it even more.
Correct. But he can't keep stacking it unless he makes sure to continually stab the same target. Because once that specific dot is gone, it'll only add one more, as opposed to stacking to 2 and then 3 and then 4 and so on and so forth.
Cool. So I imagine that the dot lasts long enough for the ability to finish its cooldown, and you'll probably have a few second window in there to stab them again with the same ability, right?
Correct. I'm thinking maybe 1 second. It's not going to be fast because I don't want it to be unfair, but
Right.
I want it to be unfair if it's a good gnome.
Right. So that's kind of like got that back to Gul'dan or even Medivh, that feel where you're just launching that Q ability out over and over again.
Exactly. And then, too, his basic attacks are just him hitting with a sword, but this one would have a different animation, so it would go in for an actual stab. So
cool.
basic attacks wouldn't apply anything.
Cool. And he'd probably say something funny while he was doing it, right?
On guard, you jerk!
Bravo. The script is written. It's written. What were you thinking for a second basic to couple with that first one?
Well, this one is pulled from Nutrinoff's build here, and it's called
cool.
Infectious Bite. A small damage over time, it turns an enemy minion into a radiated version of its former self, turning against its former allies. It has a short life and then explodes on death. And then I added a small caveat at the bottom, so that if it's used on a hero, that enemy hero then earns 2 stacks of the gnome's dot.
This is one of the ones that we fought over, because I think that's really cool idea, especially the fact that you can affect lane minions, right?
Yes, and this one had me thinking maybe he'd be a specialist at first, but I really, really, really liked the idea of the damage over time and pretty much ran with it through this entire build.
Yeah, and damage over time. It's so fun to play with and so annoying to play against. I mean, you got to have a good healer on that team to heal you through that.
You do. Nothing's more annoying than that Lunara. And she gets you, and you run behind the wall, and you just slowly watch your health go. And then you scream, "Goodbye, cruel world," and expire.
That's right. And then the death cart comes by and picks your body up and puts you on the death cart.
There we go. But at least you start back at the base, because the cart was nice enough.
Absolutely. I mean, a great idea, Nutrinoff. I love that one. And we'll get to my pick in just a few. My second basic I called Contagious. So activating this ability causes the Leper Gnome player to take a big, sick breath in and blow it out all over the enemy team. This is animated by the Leper Gnome blowing out air, sick air, in a complete circle. This causes all enemies that are affected by this to become dizzy and unable to walk straight, and affected heroes stumble slowly in a Jack Sparrow sort of fashion in the direction that they move. So they are CC'd in a way, they're controlled, but their movement, it's just a slow, but also the animation would be kind of like a drunk Jack Sparrow walking away. You're dizzy from this contagious sickness that kind of came out of Boyle.
I like it. Now, Boyle, would he stand in the center and then spin as he blows this contagious air around?
Yeah, and I figure you could even talent into it later in the game to where you could move while you're blowing this contagious air around. So it's kind of like a hover tank thing from Sergeant Hammer, where you can move while you're blowing this air around. And I just wanted him to be a gross dude, like a gross leper dude, where, this is going to have a really cool animation to it of just this air coming out. Because that's the first thing I think of when I think of sickness is, airborne illness that you can contract that way. So that's where that came from.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, how many times throughout history have people blamed illnesses on airborne diseases, right? And I think, too, we could totally trust in the the Heroes of the Storm team, because look at the animation change they just added to Stitches with the air burst.
Right.
So we know they have it in them.
Yes, they do. And it's, I mean,
Literally.
that would be really neat. And the fact that becoming dizzy is a different kind of feel to it. I wanted it to feel not just slowed, but a little different. So that's where I came up with that dizzy thing. Okay, I can't wait anymore. I got to get into the featured forger pick from Nutrinoff on my build. He called it Headbutt. And he says, when this ability is selected, Boyle rushes into the selected direction head first. So he's running in. Again, this is the E ability, the one that we usually associate with, quick movement or, escape. So he's saying that he runs into a selected direction head first. If he hits a hero, he's going to deal damage and stun them for a short amount of time. If he hits a minion, it pushes all the minions hit aside as well as dealing damage to them. And it'll travel the full length of the ability Headbutt. So it'll just plow straight through all the minions. And it does higher damage against heroes than minions, he says. And if you hit a structure, this was the coolest part. This sealed the deal for me on how cool this was. Crashing into a structure removes 1 ammo and deals damage. It does higher damage to structures than heroes. That's where that whole specialist thought had come into this build. And Nutrinoff's build was a specialist, so that's where this came from. But I love that, being able to take 1 ammo out, and I think it would have a really cool animation of that 1 ammo maybe dropping out or something. And then coupled with those other basics I was talking about, he could headbutt in, plow through all the minions and then stop and then just breathe, nasty air all around the minions, and maybe they all, start slowing down and take a little bit of damage and heroes hit. I really liked this ability.
It's great. And you would imagine, too, they'd have a cooldown where, like you were saying, you could charge in. You're still out of tower range because you don't want to get slowed or hit by those shots. But you get to the enemy minion wave push. You plow into them. You tick them off a little bit so they're attacking you. You slow them down. You do damage as you wait for E to cool down. And then E finally cools down. Once those minions are dead, your minions are at the tower, and you just plow right in there. And I also want to point out that I like that the removal of 1 ammo is actually a part of the kit. It's not something you have to talent into.
Yeah, I really like that. And especially with the new quote-unquote meta that's coming to Heroes of the Storm with the latest patch, where minions are doing more damage and, ammo in the towers is more important, and paying attention to all of that stuff has become more important because they're pushing those lanes. Taking away one of those precious ammos from a tower may not sound like a huge deal, but if you keep doing this, you can really start pushing a lane and gain a really strong specialist in this Leper Gnome.
Yeah, I remember the days when Sylvanas' were played kind of like that. They would take the ability where you remove ammo from hitting a tower, and they would just mow the lanes back and forth and back and forth. And eventually, by probably level 5 or 6, enemy towers were completely out of ammo. So you could just leave your minions to push, not having to worry about that offensive state.
Yeah, absolutely. Really cool idea, Nutrinoff. Had to put it in my build. Kristen, what were you thinking for the third and final basic ability?
This one, I worked in that second part of the challenge, actually, because who doesn't want something called Gnome Punt?
Oh, so cool. Again, this was the second part of it. So the first part of Annalise's challenge was naming, which we were eager to jump on. Easy, let's do it. And she came back and said, okay, we need to make this challenge a little harder. Make it so this specific fact was added into it. And so, Kristen, I think you're going to put it in. Let's hear it.
So this one, it's not necessarily that he gets punted, because it's an E, so you want it to be useful all the time. And what if you don't have any friends around that can kick you? So a tinkerer by trade, Leper Gnome has built himself a launching contraption that gives him the power to keep up with the taller folk. When activated, it launches him forward an impressive distance, because all I could see in my mind was him landing in the middle of a group of enemies and laughing maniacally as his stacks of radiation start taking him down little by little.
Oh, that's position mastery right there. To be able to get in there, start dealing damage. The enemy team is going to freak out, not know what to do, start running away, running towards you, Man, there's a plethora of amazing possibilities with that. And also the ability for you yourself to be out of position, right?
Oh, yeah. And if they have a stun, they'll probably just delete you from the map. But there is a heroic we haven't yet talked about that may also add to the beauty of the gnome punt.
Oh, love it. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the heroics.
Heroic.
Before we get into the best part of the show, talking about heroics, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/HeroesForge. We couldn't do the show without you guys. Thank you so much for supporting us. If you'd like to support the show, head on over there to patreon.com/HeroesForge and check out all the awesome goals and awesome ways that you can support us. And yeah, if you like the show and you listen to us on iTunes, make sure you head on over to iTunes, drop us a 5-star review with your name. That way we can give you a little shout out on the show. And thank you for supporting us over there. Okay, Kristen, let's hear it. What's the first heroic ability?
Okay, now luckily this is the first one. So this is the one that would tie into the gnome punt more so than the other one. And this one is called Expiration. Now, due to radiation's intense nature, Leper Gnome knows that his time is running short. When activated, Leper Gnome will expire in a burst of radiation sometime during a 5-second countdown. The exact time he explodes is random. When he does, though, any nearby enemies are coated in a concentrated gnome radiation dose, giving them anywhere from 10 to 2 stacks of his dot based on how close they were to the center of his dying burst.
Man, this is going to be really strong because you got your trait. You're obviously hitting them with your Q while you're in there. You launched in with your gnome punt and you're in there. You hit it and you got 5 seconds to just put as much dot on everybody around you and they're all really close. They try to get out. Maybe it explodes off in the first second. Oh, super cool. Super cool. So this is going to do direct damage, or did you say this does even more damage over time stacks?
More damage over time.
Oh, you got to have a good support player playing against this Leper Gnome. Really good.
But this one is like a suicide run, right? Because you're not coming back from it. And if you get everyone in the center of the explosion, that is 10 stacks on everybody of the dot. And those 10 stacks then have to fade away a tick at a time.
Oh, so that support's if that support's included in that group, gotta heal as many people as possible before they die or heal themselves. I mean, there's a lot of choices you'd have to make there.
Oh, exactly. I thought you were talking about the support for the Leper Gnome. That's why
Oh.
not the support on the enemy team. You're absolutely right. You maybe even need 2 supports so that they can heal each other through all of this.
So your Leper Gnome assassin build, I mean, he's got to have, although he has a normal quote-unquote health pool, it's got to be on the lower end.
Yeah, maybe medium, because I want him to be hardy enough where he isn't taken out as quickly as some of those melee assassins can be.
Right.
Maybe somewhere between Thrall and Illidan.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe closer to Illidan in my mind. That's a really, really cool idea. So you're saying you sacrifice yourself for this?
Exactly.
Cool. I mean, those are choices we don't often get to make in the game with, the push of a button. So I really, really like that idea too. My first heroic ability is called See a Doctor, Quick! When this heroic is used, the area around the Leper Gnome becomes infected with a disease that causes hysterical blindness. All heroes in the area are affected, and slowly the player's screens become more and more fuzzy. This effect lasts for a short amount of time until it slowly returns to normal. The screen for the enemy team never truly goes black, just fuzzy, and makes it hard for enemy players affected to see.
Wow. Oh, so is it a uniform fuzziness, or is it kind of like the edges are a bit darker and the center is fuzzy?
I think if you had taken off your glasses and you had really poor vision, but it's like you're gaining that poor vision slowly. So you're affected by it. It's going to go fuzzy, 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 maybe right in the middle, the craziest part of a team fight. Maybe they're just starting to throw abilities because they can't really see where stuff is. And then it starts to slowly fade back to normal.
Oh my goodness. And could you imagine the meta that could really make this thing cool? For one, you'd want a team with the Leper Gnome to have smaller heroes, right? Because they would be harder to pick out than the big ones.
Ooh, yeah.
And you'd probably want a stealthier too, because you can't see those stealthies in that fuzziness. I can barely see the stealthies with my regular vision.
Dang, that's a really good thought. I hadn't even thought of stealthies because you really couldn't see them. And I love the fact of messing with the enemy player's vision or their screen. I mean, we've brought that to a couple of heroes on the show, and I thought that would be a really, really neat idea to kind of infect them with this hysterical blindness, you know?
Yeah, and now how would you infect them?
I don't know. That was one thing I was thinking, like, how would it be? Would it be another airborne sort of thing that kind of affects them like that? Or maybe, I really don't know any other way to do it. And maybe it's just, I don't know.
Maybe he sets off like a little flashbang grenade or something?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's like a poison grenade or something. Maybe it's like a taste of his own medicine or something, and they get this, you know, hysterical blindness. It's a crazy idea. Oh, it's nuts. So for the second heroic on my side, I accepted the challenge of the gnome punt. And it is, it's exactly what you said you didn't want it to be.
You accepted the full-on, you accepted the NFL challenge of the gnome punt. I merely did high school football. You're going all the way here.
That's right. And it's a heroic, and it's called Ready, Set, Gnome. When this heroic is used, the leper gnome screams out, Ready, Set, Gnome. While he's screaming, he rolls himself up into a stationary ball. He will stay in this ball for as long as the player chooses. He's unable to use abilities while in this ball, or when one of the friendly players decides to click on them. When a friendly player activates the gnome, they will rush forward and punt the gnome a long distance forward, auto-locking on the furthest enemy hero. The furthest enemy hero. When the gnome lands, he explodes and poisons all of the heroes and structures in the area. The poison does damage over time, and this ability can be activated globally. So it is the furthest hero away that from, you know, however many steps from the leper gnome is going to get hit by this Ready, Set, Gnome.
And you don't have to click on that enemy hero. It's just automatically to the furthest one away. Oh, could you imagine an Abathur chilling in his base?
Oh, yes.
And all of a sudden, bombs away!
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Now, it's going to do some serious damage, like serious damage, because you are going to have to sacrifice yourself. Another sacrifice added to one of our kits. You're going to sacrifice yourself to be punted to do a significant amount of damage. Now, if you hit an Abathur, I'm thinking that it would wipe that Abathur out. Like, I'm thinking that it would do some damage. And maybe this is OP because they could be hidden. You know, I'm thinking that you could hit the furthest one away no matter where they are, even if they are in a bush.
Oh, that would be wicked cool. I'd be okay with that because it would really only work against one hero who's hiding in a bush, right? And that's not too OP at all, especially when we have entire teams that hide in bushes. So, but what about, now would it negate heroes that are in their base, their Nexus, protected by their little wall?
Yeah, I didn't think of that, but yes, I think it would. So if you had hearthed back, or maybe if you see the gnome, like the gnome in a ball, everybody hearts at the same time and can get away from this gnome, and then he gets kicked and blows up on that force wall that protects the Hall of Storms. Maybe that's a strat.
Oh, maybe, because maybe it would be big enough to do some definite damage on the core itself, and maybe that damage on the core couldn't be undone.
Yeah, I like where we're going with this. So the challenge was accepted in a heroic way over here, where you're going to have to sacrifice Little Boyle, the leper gnome, to do some serious damage. I mean, what were you thinking for his second heroic?
This one is called Big Hug. And leaping forth with a mighty hop, the leper gnome attaches himself to an enemy unit, engaging them in the most unwanted piggyback ride of the game. Now latched onto the enemy hero, the stacks of damage over time are applied twice as fast for as long as the leper gnome decides to hold on, or until he is killed by another enemy hero. Now keep in mind, the hero that is giving the piggyback ride to the leper gnome cannot target the leper gnome. He has to be targeted by another enemy hero.
Love it. Love it. So I'm assuming you're not going to be able to do damage to your own hero if you're trying to shoot this leper gnome.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, that is cool, and it ties directly into your awesome trait. So you're screaming for help, right? You are screaming for help. It's like when you get stuck in a cocoon, only worse because you're taking damage. You can still do stuff, you just can't do stuff about why you're taking damage.
Exactly, and this horrid little creature, I can imagine he's biting at your neck on either side and screaming in your ear.
I love it.
It's basically Yoda training you to be a Jedi, except Yoda's a leper gnome, and he's not training you, he's trying to kill you.
Yeah, I absolutely love that idea. That's perfect for your trait. It's because, they're going to start running towards their friendly heroes, right? Like, help me. So they're going to get affected by it. And then, you may have said this already, but can the leper gnome player choose when they let go, or is it only when they get taken off by the enemy team?
They can choose when to let go.
Ooh, so they could just jump off and then just start stabbing and
exactly.
doing all
so imagine, and I love this one because I think it would be great if you're up against an enemy team that doesn't like to stay grouped. So there's always someone off in a lane doing something by themselves because you could do some serious damage, maybe even kill them outright.
Yeah, your build has assassin written all over it. It is really good. I love that last one. I mean, like we said, let's talk about specialty skins. I just keep talking about these abilities I really like because I just really like them. Let's talk about specialty skins. This is the part of the show where we chat about if this hero was in the Nexus, what kind of crazy skin would they have? Kristen, what were you thinking?
I'm going with the incredibly tiny Hulk. And he wears his purple pants, and his body is ripped enough to make even the full-size Hulk jealous. The incredibly tiny Hulk does his best to do as much damage as is gnomishly possible. And then when it comes to his mighty leap, he wouldn't need any kind of mechanism, because we know that the Hulk can leap, so we can assume that the incredibly tiny Hulk can leap as well.
The incredibly tiny Hulk. That is such a cool idea. And then I imagine the incredibly tiny Hulk riding the same mount that the leper gnome would ride, just kind of got that whole treasure goblin Leoric feel to it, where you're just bouncing up and down on this tiny little mount.
Exactly. And maybe when the game starts, you're a normal little gnome, but then you go through a transformation right as the gates open.
Oh, maybe you are the leper gnome. And then right before the game starts, he turns around and he says, "That's my secret. I'm always angry." And then he turns into the... Oh, this is a nerd fest tonight. This is a nerd fest. I love it. My idea is even nerdier. I'm calling my leper gnome specialty skin, "I'm Not Dead Yet." And this, I imagine, would be a skin for the leper gnome to be kind of like that Monty Python skit about, but I'm not dead yet. Like that guy just walking around, just a little version of that guy, and it fits perfectly with his specialty mount.
It would. He would have his little sackcloth on and his crazy old leper gnome hair.
Yes.
And he'd be saying things like, "I feel happy.
Yes.
I could go for a walk."
Exactly. And then everyone is just ignoring him and, going on with the battle and, maybe he gets punted.
Well, there we go.
I thought that was the best I could come up with sickness. I mean, after all of my researching on, ancient people who had leprosy, I thought, you know what? Let's take it back to Monty Python.
Exactly. It's a great take on the whole thing. A great take. A humorous take.
Oh, this whole thing was a super awesome, humorous take. And, with the tiny Hulk and Monty Python, I think we can close this one out. We can say that this hero was forged.
HeroesForge.
Bring him to the Nexus. Oh, we were so inspired by our patron Nutrinoff, who sent this build into us. Great ideas from him. Kristen, your build is super cool. Assassin side of it. Feeling icky with the leper gnome named Pat. patches, who has this ability to affect heroes that are close to him with damage over time. The closer or the longer you stay within the radius around him, the more damage you take. Being able to stab him with even more damage, biting him, doing the gnome punt, accepting the challenge, and jumping into battle to do even more damage to heroes that are closer to you, and then to awesome heroics, including the big hug, which I think wins the Forger award tonight, jumping on the back of an enemy hero and kind of riding them around and doing damage and causing the other team to just have to react to that. One of our favorite things to do on the show. On my specialist assassin build on my side, taking that awesome idea from Nutrinoff, the headbutt, and this ability where you does different things to different things that you hitting a hero, hitting minions, hitting structures, even being able to take ammo away from those structures, building that into a trait called Get Well Soon, where the last hero that does damage to Boyle, my gnome's name, takes a significant amount of damage, drawing directly from Hearthstone. Being able to do some sick skill shots, quote unquote, and activating some abilities that give other players some sickness of their own, making them dizzy, and then also a couple of really cool heroics, including the challenge accepted one, Ready, Set, Gnome. Kristen, this was a blast.
It was, and you awarded me some Forger award that we have going on now.
I
want to throw an award your way for probably grossest hero. I mean, Do You Feel Sick probably outdoes both Stitches and Murky, and they're pretty gross.
Yeah. Grossest hero. So that's like winning the the primetime TV award rather than the daytime TV award rather than the primetime TV award.
It's a good one, right? Because it takes imagination. It takes courage to go further than anyone else is willing to push the envelope. And you, sir, you've pushed the envelope, and I love it.
If there's one thing you can count on, they don't call me Jeff Push the Envelope Reynolds for nothing.
They should have thought of that, when your mom
right.
named you with Push the Envelope as your middle name, that you would continually be testing the boundaries.
Absolutely. And we've tested a lot of boundaries on the show, and we have a lot of heroes that we went out there and built. Thank you again to our patron Nutrinoff for sending in this build. If you'd like to see Nutrinoff's build for the Leper Gnome, head on over to our website, which is HeroesForge.club. It'll be posted under the Hearthstone section of the Forged Heroes section, and you can click on the Forged Hero ability through that link, and you can see the Google Doc that has all of the information for all of the builds that we build on all of our episodes, and this one will include Nutrinoff's build. For more video game and esports podcasts, make sure you head on over to Amove TV. We're part of that podcasting group, and there are some really cool shows on there, so head on over to Amove TV for more of that. We always stream the show live on Twitch. We have a video feed, and we post all of the abilities up on our feed, so it's really cool to hang out and chat. We have an awesome chat group that chats back and forth about what we talk about, and that streams live 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Amove TV. You can always follow us on Twitter at Forge Heroes. We announce the hero that we're forging a Thursday or Friday before the live show goes Sunday, so you can get in on that. And if you have builds and if you have ideas, if you want to be part of the featured Forger Spotlight every month, send them our way. There's 2 ways you can do it: at our website, HeroesForge.club, at the contact section, or you can email them up to us directly at contactheroesforge@gmail.com. We have some great ones on the back burner we're ready to bring out in the months coming. Check it out. We also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/HeroesForge. Don't forget to download the show on your favorite podcasting app. And if you'd like to support us, you can always do that on patreon.com/HeroesForge. Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs?
People can find me at Dream Destroyer, DRMDESTRYR, over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and of course my health and fitness blog, battletobebetter.weebly.com. And this week I wanted to give a shout out to Heroes Radio for graciously having me on their last episode that we recorded this past Friday.
Oh, how was it? Did it turn out really well?
It did. It was a lot of fun. We had some great discussion about Silver League meta and mainly specialists and pros and cons of specialists.
Ooh, I will have to listen to that. That sounds really neat. The Heroes of the Storm community right now is bursting with people that are passionate about this, and we know if you're listening to this that you're passionate about it too. So thank you for making this community an awesome, positive, passionate place, because sometimes it's not easy to be positive about a game that, it doesn't always go your way, right?
Nope, not at all. But you make the best of what you can, especially in the quick match, wacky matches. And honestly, I know people hate on quick match because it's crazy, but I feel like I learned the most in quick matches because it really puts you in very strange situations, which you don't think would happen in Hero League, but do happen in Hero League.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's better to learn when you don't have all the tools at your disposal, because sometimes you get into quick match and you don't have a support, right? And you're thinking, what the heck? How are we going to win this game? Then you can go into Hero League and someone will pick support, but maybe they're not the best support. Well, you know how to play without a support. That's how I start to look at it. I'm thinking, well, the last quick match I played, I didn't have one, and now I don't have one either. So we're going to switch over to that portion.
Exactly. I have my special talents for everything. I've learned new cool things based on really weird situations, and that makes me even better of a player of the one hero because you know that much more about their intricacies.
Yeah, it's a really cool game to focus on, and we all must remember that it is a game and it's supposed to be fun, and I think for the most part we do. It's really, really fun. Thank you so much for listening to HeroesForge. We really appreciate you being here. And chat, stick around. We'll chat with you for just a little bit. But if not, we will see you all in the real world.